To be honest, taxation of imported items has a plus and a minus. Okay? In terms, it's a plus because then it gives opportunity to the local manufacturers to explore the full potential of the market. It's a minus point because within the market also, there is a concept on consumer preferences. There are customers who want certain quality of finished products. And for us to make full use of the hierarchy of the demography of the population, there are people who are willing to pay maybe 1,000 shillings for a shirt. There are people also who are willing to pay maybe up to 200 shillings for the same shirt. So for you to leverage on the full potential within the demography, it is fair that, yes, whereas there is certain kind of fabrics or certain kinds of raw materials that can be taxed, there should be also others that we can look at the tax regime for them so that they are in the country at a competitive price and be able to allow people, instead of purchasing now finished products from those countries. We have had, if you go right now to Isli market, you will notice that a lot of fabric either come from, a lot of clothes either come from Turkey, or they come from Egypt, or they come from India. The question is, how do we tap into that market? Because it's undeniable that even if you raise the tax, people will still are willing to pay that tax because the quality is what they need. They are not looking at just the price, they are also looking at the quality. There is a research that personally I have commissioned in the past to see what drives purchase decisions by customers. And I found out that number one, consideration of most of the consumers is the quality. The second one is the availability of that product. The third one is the price. So if you talk about taxation, immediately it goes to price. But it does not address point number one, quality. It doesn't address point number two, the availability. So for me, taxation is one of the ways which we can address the issues bedeviling the sector. However, we should also be alive to the fact that it is not just the price that drives the consumption patterns of the consumers. There is consideration, like, for example, quality. So if we are not able to locally get that quality, what can we do? Can we get it maybe when it's just in a semi-finished form, get it finished here, and encourage that kind of trade arrangement? I would give a couple of suggestions. Suggestion number one, now that the inflation rates, from the statistics that we have right now from the Treasury, we are talking about 2.7%. Okay, the inflation is around 2.7%. And it is projected that the Kenya's economy, based on the latest World Bank estimates, will be around 4.3%. GDP growth of around 4.3%. Now, for us to aggressively grow, number one, the issue of the lending rates must be addressed. The rates at which banks are lending to the industry should be the people who are involved in the decisions on the interest rates needs to review the best lending rates and other considerations to ensure that the business are able to access rates at a lower or a competitive rates. Secondly, I would say is the issue of regulatory constraints. Manufacturing has what you call forward and backward integrations. If today I set up a factory, probably which is bottling juice, it has both forward integration and a backward integration in terms of the economics. For example, last but not least, as I suggested earlier, there is the issue around the regulators. Kenya Bureau of Standards, for example, would need to really do more. I know there have been a lot of effort to support especially the SMEs, but I believe the breakthrough of Kenyan economy sits squarely in what Kenya Bureau of Standards does. Because by sensitizing most of the SMEs especially on what the processes that they need to comply with for them to access even the export markets. Because the mind of an SME is that it is very difficult at the moment. I work a lot with them, and they always have a belief that the process is long, the process is costly. So if the government wants to tap into that subsector, it is the breakthrough will come through the interventions of Kenya Bureau of Standards, by going closer to them, arranging sensitization meetings, and in some cases, if possible, reduce the levies and the duties that they are charged for some of the services that they offer to these SMEs. So I think that, in my view, would help significantly. But looking at my own experience when I had a chance to visit Thailand, agro-based value chains can be a very big source of employment in this country if it is managed effectively. If we have, the government is working on aggregation centers and all that, but the main issue around that would be, how do we adopt very basic, simple technologies to do value addition? For example, if you are a small-scale farmer within an area, can we have a structure of a setup where there is an investment into some technology, value addition, where members within that geographical zone can utilize, so that by the time the goods are going to the market, they are already value added. And it doesn't need to be a big setup of factory. It can be small factories in satellite areas, and they are managed in a way that gives them the technology and also value for their effort in terms of ready market and a competitive pricing.